20 years ago, our nation was rocked by a series of coordinated terrorist attacks on American soil. What started out as an ordinary day quickly turned to tragedy. Hundreds of heroes emerged as they courageously faced evil head-on. The bravery and strength shown by so many that day, and in the days and weeks to follow, spoke volumes to the compassion we have for one another. To my fellow first responders that reported that day, you were the standard bearers for our profession. Your commitment to service and self-sacrifice were unwavering as you charged into the unknown. You will never be forgotten.
In September of 2001, I had a little over 11 months. I was just shy of my one-year anniversary with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office.
At that time, I was a detective in the Economic Crimes Unit.
At that time, I was on the bicycle unit. I was an officer on the street a few months out from making sergeant.
At that time, I was assigned as a school resource officer in the Community Affairs Division. The morning of September 11, 2001, I was at the school and I was walking around the outside of the school when a teacher approached me and asked me if I heard what happened today.
I will never forget where I was at. I was in my honor guard interview. I didn't really know what was going on until I listened to my radio on the way home.
I was in a maternity ward. My second son was being born.
I was actually in training with elderly exploitation, and we saw it on the television.
The first thought was that it was a movie.
And I came home and I was talking to my mom, and I remember we both started crying.
When I thought about the lives that were lost, then I was sad.
Losing nearly 3,000 people, over 400 first responders. The realization of what happened hit you like a ton of bricks.
Helplessness, that's all I can say. I felt helpless and afraid because I had no idea where it was going to hit next.
Even though it's happening in New York and DC and Pennsylvania, it feels like it's happening right there, and then you don't know what's happening next.
And then when the second plane hit, that's when the pagers started going off.
I remember as a mom, my children were in school, and I'm thinking, oh my God, can I get to the school to get my kids? And then it was like, whoa, you're here to help the public. You can't just drop everything and go home. So that was sad for me.
Like a lot of people, I wanted to get my family together. And then as a police officer, I didn't know what was needed of me during this time because this was unlike anything.
I remember going in early, like real early that day, waiting to be told what to do. And that night, I was actually assigned to the touch and go airstrip off of Halsema in Zone 5. It's still there. And they put me in to guard that tower. There was one gentleman in it. He said, I've never seen anything like this in my life. And he showed me there were 5 aircraft, what appeared to be over the southeastern U.S.
We were vulnerable. And for me, I was afraid because I signed up to save and help, but I felt helpless.
We knew what had happened in New York and the Pentagon and in Pennsylvania, but we didn't know what was going to happen anywhere else.
I remember the day after all that tragedy and the things that we took for granted, the people we took for granted, we just had a better and a newfound sense of purpose as a country and as individuals.
And it really brought out a patriotism that I had never seen before. I remember you couldn't even find an American flag anywhere.
Being a veteran myself, serving in the Marine Corps, it just renewed that esprit de corps and that sense of oneness that we had as a country.
So I was on the honor guard starting in about '96, and they've always had a national presentation for the fallen officers. The one after 9/11 was huge.
Every police department from what seemed like all over the world, as far as multiple countries sent officers. There were police officers from all over Europe. It appeared to be well over 10,000 bagpipers took over the streets of DC. It's called the Parade of Pipers, and many, many years later still have it.
And we had one in Tallahassee as well. We even had one locally. It was really a healing process to be there during that time.
I think the events of 9/11 has shaped the world in the fact that we're a little bit more security conscious. We're more self-aware and have more situational awareness of what's going on around us.
Taking pictures of bridges, buildings, trains. These overnight became suspicious.
It's funny, I talked to my younger son who was born just before that, and he'll be 20 years old on his 20th anniversary. His generation really doesn't understand it as well. It's kind of like my generation understanding Pearl Harbor. I know that it was terrible, and I've seen all the footage, and I understand how devastating it was, but until you really lived it, it's a little different.
We don't have a false sense of security anymore. So I think now we have a reality that a threat can come at any time from anywhere.
I think the biggest change he saw in law enforcement was our ability to communicate and coordinate with other agencies.
We had to change the way we operated. We had to start looking for infrastructures. We had to start looking for chemical threats.
The footprint that we had for a regular, what would be a Jaguars game, grew exponentially.
We coordinated better with our state partners, with our federal partners, the local agencies, and our communication grew leaps and bounds.
But it changed things. The way that we fly, the patience in understanding that there have to be a lot more background checks, a lot more security when we enter buildings.
The things that we sometimes took for granted before were now more deliberate in how we do things.
I just wanted something because I never wanted to forget, and I wanted to have something that really was a daily reminder.
It's something we can never forget.
20 years later, our world today is different than it was in 2001. No matter how much the world around us continues to change, the events of September 11th have had a profound effect on the way we as a country react to events around us. Now more than ever, law enforcement agencies are unified and have a strong front as we face the threat of terrorism together. No matter the time that has passed, we will continue to pray for our country, for the families of the fallen, and for those that survived, knowing that they too sacrificed so much that day. This Patriots' Day, as we remember the events ingrained in our nation's history, may our patriotism and love for our country remain constant, as it was in the days and weeks following Tuesday, September 11th, 2001. May God bless you, and may God continue to bless our great country.